Tonight, let me ask you a question. For decades, the United States has represented opportunity. Well, biggest careers, better technology, higher salaries, a place where millions of people, including Indians, dreamt of building a successful life. But the question is that dream beginning to change? Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about different stories, different people, different parts of the world. But together they reveal one powerful message. The lives of Indians abroad are changing faster than ever before. Technology is changing, jobs are changing, politics is changing, even the definition of American dream, that is changing. Tonight we connect all these stories, explain why they matter and tell you what they mean for Indians living overseas and families back home. I'm Driti Atri, this is Skyline, and let's start with it. Can you imagine working for one of the biggest tech companies in the world? You have a stable job, a good salary, a successful career, and then one morning you receive an email telling you that your job is no longer existing. Well, that has become reality for thousands of Microsoft employees. Microsoft has announced another major round of layoffs, cutting about 4,800 jobs as the company continues investing heavily in artificial intelligence. Well, the company says it is spending record amount on AI infrastructure while also trying to improve efficiency across the business. Now, these layoffs come at a time when several other major tech companies have also reduced their workforce as they shift more resources towards AI. Now, think about it. Just a few years ago, technology companies were hiring people as fast as they could. Every engineer was in demand. Every software developer had multiple job offers. In fact, companies were competing to attract the talent. Today, the whole situation, it looks very different. Artificial intelligence is changing how businesses operate. Many routine tasks that once required teams of employees can now be completed much faster using AI-powered tools. Companies say that AI helps improve productivity, but employees worry that it could replace their jobs. And that is the biggest debate taking place in Silicon Valley today. And that's not just Microsoft's story. Other tech giants have also announced layoffs while continuing to invest billions of dollars into AI. Now, for Indian professionals working in the US, tech industry specifically, this is an important reminder that the future of job market will increasingly reward specialized skills. Well, artificial intelligence is creating new opportunities, but it is also transforming the old career. The technology revolution is not coming though, it has already arrived. And yes, while AI is changing workplaces, our next story shows that technology is also helping criminals carry out increasingly sophisticated scams. Can you imagine receiving a phone call telling you that your passport has been linked to a serious crime? Now imagine somebody claiming to be a police officer calling you next. They tell you that you could be arrested. They warn you not to speak to anyone. They send official looking documents. They know that what are your personal details. They know you. Everything appears genuine. Now answer me, what would you do? Well, that nightmare became reality for an Indian American college professor in the United States. According to reports, fraudsters posing as officials from the Indian consulate and police officers convinced the professor that she was under investigation in India. Over several weeks, they kept her under constant psychological pressure, instructed her to remain isolated, and persuaded her just to transfer money into accounts they controlled. By the time she realized that investigations were fake, she has lost nearly about $500. That's a lot. Authorities say that such digital arrest scams are increasingly targeting Indian nationals and Indian Americans by impersonating government officials and using fear to manipulate the victims. Now, think about that. This is not a cyber attack. No computer was hacked, no passport was stolen. Instead, the scammers targeted something much more powerful: human psychology. That's right, they created fear, they created urgency, and they isolated the victim from families and friends. Here, experts say that this is exactly how these scams work. The criminals want the victims to panic before they have time to think logically. And the most shocking part is that this victim was the highly educated professor, and that too in the US. And that reminds us one important lesson here. Scammers do not target the intelligence. No, Well, they target the trust, the people who are innocent. In fact, authorities are now warning people never to transfer money because of the unexpected phone calls claiming to come from police or maybe government departments or consulates. Always verify first because one phone call can destroy a lifetime of savings. And yes, while one family became the victim of financial criminal, another group of criminals were targeting Indian families in a very, very different way. Well, from financial fraud, let's now move to another crime that has left many Indian American families living in constant fear. Well, for most people, home is the safest place in the world. It is where families feel secure, where memories are created, where children grow up. But imagine discovering that criminals have been watching your every move before breaking into your house. Well, that's exactly what investigators say happened in Massachusetts. Law enforcement agencies have dismantled a burglary ring accused of specifically targeting Indian Americans and East Asian families. Well, according to investigators, the suspect used sophisticated methods including GPS tracker, hidden cameras, and Wi-Fi jammers to monitor victims and disable home security system. Well, authorities say the investigation involved multiple agencies and modern forensic tool to identify those who are responsible. Well, members of Indian American community have welcomed the arrests while also calling for stronger protection against the crime that appear to disproportionately affect immigrant families. Now think about this. This was not an ordinary burglary. Investigators believe that suspects carefully selected their targets. They allegedly monitored vehicles. They tracked daily routines, studied neighborhoods, and waited for the right opportunity before striking. Community leaders say that many Indian families have become worried because they believe that criminals specifically target home where they expect to find gold jewelry, cash, or valuable items. And that has started an important conversation. Should these crimes receive greater attention or not? Should law enforcement treat repeated attacks on one community differently? Well, following the arrest, community organizations have started creating safety groups, awareness campaign, and stronger partnership with police departments. The message is quite simple here. Every family deserves to feel safe inside their own home. And yes, while police are working to stop organized crime, our next story is about something equally worrying: growing anti-India rhetoric in parts of the United States. Well, the United States has always been known as a country built by immigrants. People from every corner of the world, they have helped shape its economy, its innovation, its culture, and among them, the Indian American community has emerged as one of the most successful immigrant communities in the world. From doctors to engineers to entrepreneurs and CEOs, Indians have made a lot of contribution to the American society. But over the past few months, another trend has started making headlines, and it involves Indians in the United States. A rise in anti-India rhetoric. Ladies and gentlemen, according to reports, a woman named Kelly Smith, who claims to be running for governor of Texas, has once again targeted the Indian community. After previously making very controversial remarks about Indians and Hindu temples, she posted a video on social media showing herself burning the Indian national flag. Well, she also criticized the growing number of Hindu temples in the United States and claimed that Indians were taking over American land. The video has now triggered concern among the members of Indian American community. Now think about that. The Indian American community has played a major role in America's growth for decades now. Indian origin professionals lead some of the world's biggest technology companies. Thousands of Indian doctors, they serve in American hospitals. Indian entrepreneurs have created businesses that employ thousands of people. And that is why incidents like these create concern not only among Indians, but also among the Americans who believe that diversity has always been one of the country's biggest strengths. Community leaders say that criticism and political debate, they are part of every democracy. But targeting an entire community because of their nationality or their religion, it crosses a different line. Now, many Indian Americans are now calling for stronger action against hate speech and discrimination. They argue that racism against Indians should be treated with the same seriousness as racism directed at any other community. Well, the whole incident has also sparked another debate. Can online hate eventually influence real-world behavior? Now, that question is becoming increasingly important as social media continues shaping public opinion. Here one thing is definitely certain. The overwhelming majority of Indian Americans continue contributing very positively to the US, and they expect it to be treated with the same respect as every other community. But yes, while some Indians are facing hostility abroad, others are making a very surprising decision. Instead of moving to America, they are choosing to stay in India. That's right, it's shocking to know, but well, for years, getting an opportunity to work in America, it was considered a dream. But one Indian professional has now gone viral for turning that dream down. Ask any engineer student, a software developer, or any other young professional, what is that one dream that they have? Now, for years, the answer it was simple. Well, the answer was job in America, higher salaries, global exposure, a better lifestyle. But you know what? That particular dream has beginning to change now. A story shared by entrepreneur Ujjwal Asthana has started a major discussion online. According to Asthana, one of his relatives declined an internal company transfer to the US despite receiving the opportunity. The reason is simple. He believed the lifestyle he currently enjoys in India, it would be very difficult to maintain in America. He felt he would have managed household chores himself, missed the convenience of quick grocery maybe, and given up several affordable services that are easily available in India. Now think about this. For years, Indians compared salaries. Today, they are comparing the lifestyle. Yes, salaries in America, they are still very, very high. But so are the expenses. Household help, childcare, laundry, in fact, home maintenance, everyday services that many Indians take for granted often cost significantly more in the United States. Well, that has led many professionals to ask a simple question. Is earning more always equal to living better? Well, the answer is becoming complicated. India's growing economy, expanding tech sector, and improving quality of life are giving professionals more opportunity than ever before. Remote work has also changed the whole equation. Many professionals can now work for global companies while continuing to live in India. That means that traditional idea of success is slowly changing. Well, for some people, success is no longer about moving abroad. It's about finding the best quality of life wherever they choose to live. And yes, while some Indians are choosing to remain in India, one of the world's biggest tech company is making one of the biggest investment in India's future. Artificial intelligence is changing the world. Countries are competing to build faster networks, stronger digital infrastructure, and smarter technology. Well, in that global race, India is becoming one of the best players yet. Google has announced a $15 billion investment under its new America-India Connect initiative. The whole project, it will establish a new international subsea cable gateway in Visakhapatnam while adding multiple new subsea cable route connecting India with the United States, Singapore, Australia and South Africa. Well, speaking at the India AI Impact Summit, Google CEO Sundar Pichai, he said that the initiative will strengthen AI connectivity between India, America and several countries across Southern Hemisphere. Well, he also highlighted Google's collaboration with aims to explore how artificial intelligence can help doctors by creating medical reports based on patients' information. Now, think why this announcement matters. Now, most people never see the cables that carry the world's internet traffic, but almost every email, every video call, every online activity, payment, and every AI application depends on them. Subsea cables are the invisible highways of the digital world. By investing billions of dollars in new digital infrastructure, Google is basically sending a strong message here. India is no longer just a market for technology. Well, it is becoming one of the world's highest technology hubs. Well, the partnership also reflects the growing relationship between India and the US in emerging technologies. Artificial intelligence, cloud computing, semiconductor, digital infrastructure. These sectors will define the future generation of economic growth. And India is becoming a key player of that future. But India's global influence is no longer growing only through technology. It is also growing through culture. And our next story proves exactly that. Well, when people think about India's global rise, they often talk about technology. They talk about artificial intelligence, they talk about startups, they talk about billion-dollar companies. But India's biggest strength is much older than these. It is civilization, it is tradition, it is culture, and this particular week, that rich heritage, it was celebrated on one of the world's most prestigious stages. Nearly 387 artists came together in an iconic Carnegie Hall in New York to showcase India's classical and folk dance tradition during the All India Dance Festival. Well, organized by Consulate General of India in New York in collaboration with the non-profit organization 3 Akshar. The festival featured performances including Kathak, Bharatnatyam, Kuchipudi, Odissi, Mohiniyattam, Garba and Bhangra. Well, the event attracted an audience of about 2,800 people and celebrated India's rich cultural heritage before an international audience. Now think about this. This particular hall, it is not just ordinary performance venue. It is one of the most respected cultural stages in the world. Over the years, some of the history's greatest musicians, performers, artists, they have performed there. Standing on that particular stage is considered a dream performance across the world. And now, India's classical and folk tradition have once again gained the honor. You know what makes this story even more special is that many of the performers were young Indian Americans, children who were born and raised thousands of kilometers away from India. Yet they continue learning Bharatnatyam, Kathak, Kuchipudi, Odissi, Garba, and many other traditional art forms. So this showcases something very powerful here. Culture travels across generations. It crosses the border, it survives the distance, and it keeps the communities connected to their roots. In fact, the festival also reflects the growing cultural relationship between India and the United States. Well, today India is exporting much more than software engineers and entrepreneurs. It is sharing languages. It is sharing music. In fact, it's dances, festivals, and the civilization with the rest of the world. Well, as India's global influence continues growing, culture is becoming one of the country's strongest forms of soft power. And yes, while the story celebrates the success of Indians abroad, our final story reminds us that life overseas, it is not as always perfect as it appears on social media. From a story of pride and celebration, let's now move to the one that reminds us of the personal struggles many families quietly face while chasing the dream of a better life abroad. Every year, thousands of Indians leave home with just one dream: the better future. In fact, better income, better life. But life abroad also brings new challenges. Different cultures, different lifestyles, different pressure. And sometimes it is very difficult personal decision. A recent case involving a Gujarati family in the United States has once again attracted global attention after reports claim that a woman who had left her husband and child to live with another man eventually returned to her family after a few months. Well, according to reports, disagreements between the couple began soon after they started living together, while family members from both the sides remained in constant contact and encouraged their meetup. Eventually, she decided to return to her husband, who reportedly agreed to give the relationship another chance. Now, I know it's not a news, but it has a hidden message for Indians. This story is not just about one family. It reflects the emotional pressure that many people experience after moving abroad. Living in another country can be exciting, but it can also be lonely. Long working hours, financial pressure, immigration uncertainty, distance from your parents, distance from your relative, and the absence of a strong support system, it can place a lot of pressure on relationships. Well, experts often say that migration changes more than just career. It changes lifestyle, it changes families, and sometimes it changes relationship altogether. Well, that does not mean every family experiences the same challenges though. Millions of Indians have built happy and successful lives abroad. But stories like these remind us that moving overseas is not a guarantee of happiness. Well, every family has its own struggle. Every leadership faces its own tests, and every decision carries consequences. Perhaps that is the biggest lesson from tonight's program. Whether it is tech, crime, politics, culture, or personal relation, the lives of Indians abroad continue to evolve in unexpected ways. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's Skyline. Well, some stories bring hope, some bring concern, some inspire, and some teach important lessons. But every story matters because behind every headline are real people. Real families and real dreams. As always, we will continue bringing you the biggest global stories that matters to Indian around the globe. Thank you for watching. I'm Driti Atri. Stay informed, stay cautious, and I'll see you in the next episode.